Hello and welcome to another episode. My name's Ross.
And I'm Craig.
It's time to put the kettle on because it's tea time. Right, in the news today, we have another solar breakthrough. I'm a bit excited about this one. It's not UK news, sadly, but it is significant enough, I thought, for mention. So scientists at the University of Michigan have earlier this week announced their fully transparent solar cell has just managed to achieve 8% efficiency. To put that into context, that's still half of what a normal solar panel can do, but the transparency element is a game changer, I think. So as it means like buildings like skyscrapers could utilize the full vertical height of the building to collect solar through the windows. And if the technology keeps improving, we could see it on conservatories, FedEx windows, greenhouses, and cars with glass roofs. So I think that's a bit exciting.
That's very exciting. So when you say they've increased the efficiency, do you know from what?
I think it's like 6 or something. It's not, not much, but it's getting
They're chipping closer to, yeah.
Yeah, that's the key there. It's moving forward. Did you know, hottest temperature ever, question mark. Death Valley hits 54.4 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I did know that, but
you know?
it's not UK news, so I didn't list it.
No, I know, but it affects us all, man. So it's the highest temperature that's reliably recorded. It's still awaiting a validation, but if it is, then it's slightly higher than the current reliable record, which is in 2013 or 54 degrees. So burned.
So yeah, bad news for the planet.
Bad news for the planet. Yeah. In other news, vegans are causing trouble again. That's aren't they really? So the Sustainable Food Trust says that vegans are harming the planet by drinking soy milk.
Oh, the bastards!
And that they would do better. To drink cow's milk.
I've read something similar actually, but I'll get more detail next time. But apparently, soy takes up a lot of land to grow, more than other things like cows.
Right. So, well, their argument is that an awful lot of deforestation happens in order to make soy, but they've pinned it mostly on the vegans, as opposed to the fact that most of the soy is used as a supplement instead of grass to feed the cows that's providing the milk that they're suggesting that they should drink.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. First of all, you don't need to cut down a rainforest to grow soy. You could just grow it somewhere else. And I think we do. I think we grow it in France. Also...
vertical farms.
What, sorry?
Vertical farms.
Well, all that, yeah, you could do that. But yeah, the fact that it's more used as a cow feed than it is possibly for vegans is a key point. Instead of feeding it grass, so they're also saying that farmers should feed the cows grass. Great, but it's just the fact that they missed out that link between the cow, which is feeding the soy, and the vegans now suggesting that they drink the milk of the cow, which are feeding the soy. It just is stupid.
Yeah, but cows are vegans, so kind of all in the same world.
Yeah, and perhaps better still is that they went, right, okay, you can't drink soy milk. That's bad. So you should drink cow's milk. They missed out all the other alternatives like oat milk and almond milk and cashew milk, and they didn't suggest that vegans went to those, which are also vegan options. They suggested that they went back to drinking cow. I thought it was brilliant, so I thought I'd mention it because they're dumb.
Yeah, it sounds like a meat industry thing. Because I think what I previously read was in terms of land usage and deforestation is cows first, then soy, then palm oil. So palm oil, soy typically get associated with stuff because they're always in things. Like palm oil is used in a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah.
Like chocolate.
But if the soy's all feeding the cows,
yeah,
then they're 1 and 2.
Apparently, excess consumption of soy also increases estrogen in males.
All right.
So you should also watch that stuff.
Yeah. Yes, I will do. Will do. Right. So that's the main news I have. But I did want to go back to. We talked about it in a previous episode where I posed the question, as I often do, and I didn't answer it. So I thought I would answer one of those questions. So the question I posed myself was, which draws more carbon dioxide, old forests or new forests?
Yes.
Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
So I did some research, and this was the answer. Unfortunately, the science is a little still confusing. It's not a clear-cut answer, basically. So firstly, it seems that a tree does in fact continue to increase its growth the older the tree gets. I think I suggested that that was possibly not the case, and that an older tree, because it's already grown, will absorb less CO2 than a new one that was growing. That was the point I made. I think you were on the not sure about it. So you were right on that one. So yeah, the older the tree gets, it still continues to increase its absorption of CO2, which would suggest on its own that older forests are better. However, there's one extra caveat. Because the trees are larger, they're also further apart. So a new forest, you can put all the trees very close together. So technically speaking, until they reach that point where they start competing with each other, per square meter, a younger forest can achieve a high level of CO2 absorption than an older one. So I think in the case of very specific farming, you can achieve better if you're using, if you're planting it and then, I don't know what the time frame is. I think it's like 20 years or something, but you then cut it down and then you sort of start again. If you're doing that, then that could be more effective. But generally speaking, you're right. Leaving a forest on its own is definitely the better thing to do.
I mean, that's what it's evolved to do. So I assume we just leave it the bloody hell alone.
Yeah.
And let it do its thing.
Yeah, leave nature to itself. It does a better job than we do. Weird, isn't it? The other main issue is the logging part, which is still pretty bad. So we use up a lot of CO2 in getting the logs out. So that would go against the new forest again, because a lot of the carbon that when we chop down trees, we leave a lot of it on the floor, and then it obviously rots quicker than it would do if it was alive and in the ground. So in a nutshell, you win.
Cool. I didn't know it was competition, but thank you.
I thought I'd make it one because I like to lose. So your reward is that you can continue with the news.
Oh, is that all your news? Oh, cool. Okay.
That was it. Loads of other stuff. It was all boring, so I didn't tell you.
Yes, it's good actually that we got quite a little bit news this time, and something new which is happening is a games publisher of PlayStation 4 games, Untitled Goose Games, ditched the whole plastic box of PS4 games in an eco-friendly drive to start producing cardboard boxes.
Good point. I've got a ton. We've got loads of them lying around here. Good point.
I mean, they're horrendously plastic. So, so these are the first time this has happened. Apparently, this actual box, which is recycled cardboard, took over a year to create, mainly because they wanted to get to the point where a cardboard case of a game felt premium. Because I suppose we've all got that problem. Cardboard boxes, they're very flimsy, bit poor, unless you coat them with some sort of plastic residue.
Yes.
So they try to avoid all of that by being as recycled and eco-friendly as possible. So it took them a year to develop this. and they are the first. And yeah, hopefully this now starts a domino effect, and other games publishers do the same. And maybe even Sony, Microsoft, the heads of these consoles can start recommending them, because otherwise, this is a great piece of news.
Yeah, I like.
Untitled Goose Games, good job. Other piece of news was a bit local to me as well, is the Cardiff and Bridgend Heat Network project. The idea of this is it's been given a 16 million quid boost, and we're taking heat from Cardiff industry and pumping it into Bridgend recreational and leisure facilities and new homes. There's a new building estate in Brackla, which will have this underground piped heat to start heating houses. So I mean that's pretty cool.
I've not heard. I mean, well, I think we talked about it, but are they doing that anywhere else, or is Cardiff the first?
Cardiff to Bridgend is the first, and it's the first phase of the UK-wide Heat Networks investment project. So this project has 320 million from the UK government. This is going to happen in Wales and England. Scotland and Northern Ireland have their own things. And this is a big part of UK's plan to decarbonise by 2050. So yeah, 320 million in the pot, and the idea is to take heat from places which have a lot of it and just pipe it underground to places that don't. In the Bridgend's case, the first phase of the heat coming from Cardiff will end up going to the bowls hall, keep the people who play bowls nice and warm. The civic centre offices.
Right, as in bowls?
Yeah, as in bowls.
As in the elderly people, mostly.
Mostly, but we shouldn't thing it.
Really, yeah, so my entire family plays it, so I know that most people there are old, and I think that's accepted. But okay, yes.
Cool. So they're going to keep them warm with industry piped heat from Cardiff, which is awesome, considering Bridgend and Cardiff is about 25 miles. So that's going to be pumped entirely in the ground somehow. Don't know how that works. So it's going to go to the Bowls Club, the Civic Centre, which is basically the council offices, and the Bridgend Life Centre, otherwise known as the Recreational Centre, where the gym, swimming pools, library, etc. is. And they're getting the first dibs because they're going to get a combined heat and power boiler installed by the council, and that'll be operational by 2022. So very quick, very cool. That's a nice project to see on my doorstep. That's actually doing something, which is really nice. Other than that, back to the UK as wide. It seems the 18th, so yesterday, the UK took its first steps towards regulating autonomous vehicles. And I think we've talked about this a lot, and we've talked about how, especially now with Brexit, we're leaving the European Union, we can create new regulations, new laws. We're in a perfect place to do this type of stuff. And I'm sure we've always kind of said, yeah, please, Musk, Tesla, come to the UK, come and do this stuff first, because it's in tests in the US, I believe, in places like California.
Yeah. But
again, it's not regulated in any way yet to actually be sold into new cars.
Yes, and Elon's always said that the whilst the technology he thinks is going to be ready by the end of the year, the next hurdle is regulation, and he has sort of like basically said, like, I've no idea how long that will take. The best I can hope for is that I can put together the data of what we found out so far, because we have over 1 million miles worth of driving, or is it a billion?
Yeah.
I can't remember. And then use that as evidence. And the Department for Transport are asking for evidence, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what the UK government has specifically asked for, is a call for evidence. They are effectively taking the steps forward in defining, specifying, and regulating the practicality of autonomous vehicles. And the first step in the autonomous vehicles are the automated lane keeping system on motorways. So that's the bit they're going to start with. So it's not fully autonomous. This is kind of cruise control with lane changing technology.
I think it's called level 2. Maybe level 2, I think.
Level 2.
You've got 5 levels of autonomy.
Ah, okay. So level 2, switching lanes.
Yes, is where the car can essentially drive itself, but you have to be ready to take over. I can never remember what 3 and 4 are. No one seems to care. They just go straight to 5, where you don't have to do anything.
So 5, there's just no steering wheel.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. So they're doing, that's the first idea. They're trying to seek some evidence as in how practical this idea is. But I think the main thing they're trying to get from this research is, and part of regulating this, who to blame if there's an accident, the owner of the car or the car manufacturer. So an answer will come from this evidence, which is really exciting that the UK will take a stance either way. And if it becomes a car manufacturer issue, I mean, Tesla may have 1 million miles under its belt. How confident is it that, this is foolproof? Stuff like that is going to start becoming an issue, and that might be the slower point.
Yeah.
So
do they want the liability? And also, we're not just talking about if it was a Tesla to Tesla crash. That's one thing, but a Tesla to another autonomous provider is a whole different ball game. Never mind the Tesla to a publicly driven person car. But can you imagine what happens if you end up with a Tesla versus a BMW or whatever, and they crash into each other? Awkward.
Yeah. I suppose they're starting. Hopefully, level 2 is a simpler version. I mean, obviously, this stuff is incredibly complex, and I have no idea how to even start. But hopefully, level 2, if we define level 2 regulations, stipulate that the car manufacturer is in control and they are liable should there be an accident, if it can be proven that the car was in ALSK mode, automated lane keeping system mode.
Yeah.
If they could prove that, and the user obviously wasn't taking control of the steering wheel, which I believe Tesla can do, they know if it's on autopilot or not.
Yeah.
Other car manufacturers need to do the same. But yeah, this effectively would start brand new regulations that have never been seen before. And the UK is looking to have this in place by spring 2021. Next year. Actually, under a year, like 9 months, 10 months away. Very ambitious. And yeah, that sounds, for me, that's very cool. We're taking the lead on this.
Yeah, I mean, it should. I think for the moment, it should probably still be the driver, the individual driver, responsible, and then it's down to them. They can sue Tesla, or whoever, if they think their car didn't behave correctly. But ultimately, they're supposed to be in control of the car. So I think that's probably what they end up. But we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, it's an incredibly complex moral argument because, I mean, right now, if your brakes fail and you're in warranty, who's to blame? Car manufacturer, I would assume. So
it depends on what it is that happened then. But yeah, but like stuff like the car drove into the central reservation. Well, ultimately, you let the car do that because you could have just steered the thing if you wanted to. So I think that's generally, at the moment, they get away with it on that basis. And then the individual driver tries to sue them. But there was one guy, I think, that drove into... I think the car mistook something for it being an open road, and he just slammed straight into it. But the guy was clearly not paying attention to what he was doing. I think he was looking at his phone or something. He could obviously steered around it, but just didn't.
Yeah,
didn't slow down or anything. And they detected no hands on the wheel. But yeah, so it's going to raise some very interesting. So yeah, very interesting to see which
it is
route they take.
But this is a question I feel that's been going around for a long time. Who takes responsibility? I mean, it could even be the UK government on the roads, for example. If for some reason a sign is dirty, it's not recognised properly, and there's an accident, is the sign to blame? Is the car to blame? Is the person to blame? Complicated, very complicated.
Must have been the council. I'm not sure you could blame the sign.
The council?
Well, whoever's look after the sign, you can't blame the sign. It's oi, you stop it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be the Department of Transport, wouldn't it, for the UK Gov, because they look after the motorways, not the councils, I believe.
Yeah, depends on but yeah.
But yeah, so once regulations in place, then all the new cars who meet those regulations are going to get sent off to Euronap and Thatcham, where research will begin to rank them in and rate them in terms of their ability to actually do the job.
Mm-hmm.
So how efficient they are at a.k.a. And that'd be very interesting to get those ratings out. I would definitely be fueling what car you buy next year. Is your money on Tesla to top that chart?
Afraid it is, mate. Afraid it is, yeah.
I mean, who else is a competitor in this world?
I don't really sure.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Lane keeping's been around for a while, so there is probably other people doing it, but yeah. Who cares? Who cares what they're doing? Quite clearly, they are far behind because no one else has got the data. But anyway, let's not make me sound like a test boy any more than I already do.
Yeah, we'll keep the fanboy until next spring, and then we'll know. Hopefully,
you can unleash me then. Cool.
My final piece of news.
Oh no, one more. Okay.
Yep, I got one more.
All right.
This is my link to you, so don't skip this one.
Okay.
Plant protein,
yes.
Which is what is plant protein? Just the kind of the seedlings, the beginnings of the plant.
Okay.
Yeah. So this has been found with research in France. It's not UK based as well, but worth sharing. It's been found to respond to radio waves, and it responds by growing faster.
So it boogies? You're saying okay, so this is like people have been playing music to plants for years. Is this what you're saying? Is that they like it, so they grow faster?
I mean, that's not exactly what the research says, but
I mean, radio waves and music isn't quite the same thing. But what you?
Yeah, so this was done by Margaret Ahmed et al. At the University of Paris, and the idea is they exposed Thale cress seedlings were exposed to radio frequencies of 7 megahertz, which is typically amateur radio operator range, and yeah, they found that it altered the light sensor in the cryptochrome. I don't know what that is. I'm not
you're the one doing the news, mate. I don't know what it is.
Well, I didn't wiki all these concepts, but it simulates it in a way that basically allows the seeding to grow faster.
Okay, so we're just talking the seed. We're not talking the full plant. We're just talking the seed will come out of its shell faster if you pump it with radio waves.
Yes, very early research. We don't know if it'll continue throughout the plant's life. Once it's not a seed, but hypothetically, it stimulates the individual plant proteins that is in the seed and allows them to sprout faster.
And do you know how much faster does it say?
There's no numbers, unfortunately.
No.
Just generally faster. That could be 0.1, it could be 10%, but there's no numbers. Very early research published last week.
So in vertical farming, people will put their seedlings into a sort of tray, which they'll put in darkness for the first couple of days. If they're growing microgreens or whatever, then it might take 2 weeks for that to go from seedling to a small crop that you can consider to be a microgreen, which you can then sell, right? So if it speeds it up by 20% or whatever, then 14 days might become 12 days, which would be significant.
Well, very significant.
Every 12 days.
Yeah, considering that this radio frequency of 7 megahertz is very low, very cheap, very easy, very DIY. So these are things you could play with and see and actually test yourself.
Anyone that likes screens, let us know.
Yeah. On the news, what's today's subject?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Today's topic is very much a personal perspective, and I'm calling it plant first, as in a plant first diet. Okay, so if you'll allow me, I have some notes which I'm going to check. So, as you know, Craig, we question everything. And as a human being, to make the biggest changes to myself, I think of myself as a system in that what goes in affects what comes out. Yeah?
Yeah.
Best not to think of that too literally if you can. But so as a biological system, what goes in is literally air, food, and drink. So the question then is what I'm putting in right for me, and is it sustainable as a species, a human species? Is that the right course to take? So, right. So, but before it sounds like it's some sort of sermon, I rather than a podcast, then I want to make clear that I am currently not a vegan or a vegan.
What's a vegan?
I thought you might ask. A vegan is a vegan that eats honey. So I'm not a vegan. I'm not vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a pescatarian. I don't like the name Flexitarian, and nor am I a macrobiotic. Please don't ask me
That's like a yogurt, isn't it?
No, it's. I read it. I can't really remember all the details of it, but it's. We'll come on to that. Maybe that's a discussion for another macrobiotic. Look it up. It's a different type. Basically, I think it's more Japanese style of eating. But moving on. Right. So my lifestyle is such that I eat in a group, and I don't have full control over what others want to cook and what they want to eat, and therefore I have to balance the importance of my consumption with the benefits to the group of sharing a meal.
Oh, sorry. For some reason, that kind of sounds like you're in prison or something.
No. There's a extended family in the house, and obviously that has some financial implications of us sharing a meal, and ease if we take in turns cooking. I don't live in a convent or anything, but it's just that there are other things to consider, so I don't have full control. Also, I'm a bit lazy, so I could not do what they do and then cook my own meals, but then that would mean I have to cook every day, so I don't. Anyway, so I have some restrictions is what I'm trying to say about what I do personally, but if you decide next week to take advantage of the full 3-day a week eating out to help out thing, the next time you go to one of those restaurants, if you check out the menu, I discovered something a long time ago, which I think accurately demonstrates how the majority of us have come to our current, shall we say, culinary leaning. Okay, so I'm going to read you 10 items from the menu.
Okay.
Beef lasagna, chicken enchiladas, fish and chips, chicken bacon and avocado salad, chicken tikka masala, pork and leek sausages with mash, salmon Florentine, gammon, eggs and ham, chicken and mushroom pie, lamb hot pot. Notice the pattern there?
All meat first.
Yeah, that's what I call a meat first menu. They are all familiar entries on the main section of all the special boards of restaurants all over the country. And did you notice that even the salad mentioned the meat first?
It's because it's the most expensive part.
Maybe. So I try to be plant first. So, and it's as much as a diet as a mental exercise, really, to see the plants on the plate before I see the meat, and to try and make the plant element the majority of the meal. So if I have a classic roast dinner, sure, there can be chicken on the plate, but it's not a chicken roast dinner to me. It's a roast dinner of potatoes, parsnips, carrots, peas, broccoli, swede, perhaps a naughty Yorkshire, a small flood of gravy, and maybe there's some chicken on the side, but maybe it doesn't have to, right? Are you with me so far?
I am.
All right, cool. And also, I don't want to be difficult. Like, so if I get offered a meal, I don't want to be the one that has dietary requirements. I don't want to get invited to a barbecue and then not be able to eat anything. So if there's only meat on the menu, that's fine. I'll compensate for it later. Okay. So, like I said, it's a mental exercise, an understanding of perhaps what we're supposed to eat and what is responsible to eat. And I also consider early humans for a rough guide on what we should probably eat the most.
This the paleo diet.
Maybe I don't know that one up. But so, for example, if I dumped you in the jungle without tools, what could you eat without first having to invent a knife and discover fire? So you could pick nuts, seeds, berries, and other fruit. You could eat flowers, bark, dig up veg with your bare hands. You could even possibly catch a fish and eat it raw. But what you can't do is walk up to the back of an auroch, prehistoric cow, and start chewing. That doesn't work, right? So for me, that's what I use as my baseline. I don't know what the percentages of our diet that should be that type of food, but I'd guess 80%, right? So far in my diet, I've not allowed for beef, chicken, lamb, pork, or any of that. And the only major source of protein is fish.
Okay.
But on that basis, we shouldn't eat dairy either, right? But so let's think about that for a second. Dairy, or just milk, human babies drink milk from their mothers, and we all know it's magical stuff that contains everything a baby needs in early growth. But all human babies produce an enzyme called lactase, which is what is needed to break down the mother's milk. Then when that starts to run out, become inconvenient or just socially unacceptable, bitty, then we stop doing it and we switch them over to the new mother, the cow, which is just, I think it's just crazy. Like, how does that even make sense? Why would we? So why do we still need milk? We think it's calcium, right? That's why we have milk.
Yeah, I mean, to add a bit of context too, we've chatted out of this, but the whole genetics of things of milk consumption is very much a Northern European thing. The rest of the world doesn't have the ability to potentially consume milk in the same way we do. We can drink milk directly from a cow's udder and be okay, whereas most of the world can't. So we're really weird in North Europe. We seem to have developed the idea that lactose continues to break down milk for their entire lives.
Yeah, that's called lactase persistence.
We can do that. That's like a superpower.
Yeah.
So
we continue to produce the enzyme lactase so that we can continue to break down the milk as adults. But yeah, as you say, other cultures like other parts of Africa, Asia, South America, they can't break down the milk. And so for some, it makes them feel sick, which we typically refer to as lactose intolerant.
Yeah, which is the majority of the world.
Yeah.
Which is really mad when you think about it.
So, so most humans, if you like, normal humans who haven't developed that superpower, at some point in their life, stop producing lactase, and we're required to be weaned onto normal food. And that's not just us, that's most mammals as well.
Yeah.
So that's just normal, right? So the reason that we think that we need milk still for children, older children and even adults, is that we think we need the calcium because it makes our bones stronger, and milk's high in calcium, so we need it, right? So but if you think about that for a second, so let's say there's a baby elephant and it drinks from its mother until it's 2 years old. Then the mother turns to her child and says, okay, you're an elephant. You need to grow up to be big and strong. So before you go to sleep every night, you need to go down to the field down the road, find a mother buffalo, steal its baby's milk. I know, it sounds weird, but hey, why do you think God gave you a meter-length straw attached to your face? Now off you go, right? It doesn't make sense for an elephant to need another animal in order to grow up properly. So why do we?
If it could, it would, though. I mean, milk is just pulverized calories. It's a really easy way of just getting stuff in. The reason why newborns have it because they haven't got any teeth and they'll be able to process nutrients faster. It's only because the body runs out of the ability to do that because the mother should stop producing milk herself. Yeah, obviously, 12,000 years ago, if you're breastfeeding a baby in the savannah, it's probably not going to be the healthy alternative when you're running.
No, okay, sure, yeah.
So, I mean, if we can do that, why is it not? It's a good thing, surely. It's a survival thing.
Yeah, it's the difference between can and should. You see what I mean? As in, like, we think, or I was brought up to think in, I don't know, maybe 1980 science that I needed to have milk. Otherwise, you know, when I fall over at football, I'd break a leg or something because my bones aren't strong enough, right? That's what we were led to believe. And it doesn't make any sense. We should be more than capable of growing our bodies correctly without needing to suck on a cow in order to achieve that. So
it's very ingrained, though. I mean, you get like a pint of milk every day in school and stuff. It's very ingrained.
I know. Like, as my son lives with his mum. Sometimes lives with me. With me, I don't really give him milk because it doesn't make sense to me to do that. Whereas at home, he has milk. So when he comes here, he's like, Daddy, I want milk before bed, and I'm like, how about some water? Which never goes down well. Anyway, so the question of whether dairy is supposed to be in the human diet, for me, supposed to be in terms of that. What you're now called, was it the paleontology diet?
Paleo diet. Yes, right, like right. The caveman diet.
Right. Okay. So according to the caveman diet, no, milk should not be in there. Dairy should not be in there. But in the UK, as we've discussed, we're highly likely to have been evolved to tolerate it. So I don't think our bodies would have done that evolution unless there was some positive reason to do so, whether it's the calcium or something else. So great, we can still have milk in our tea, or you can let it go off and then grate it on your chips, right? So we're lucky in that sense. But now that I know this, I've looked for alternatives to cow milk. So tonight, for example, cashew milk. That's what we're having. Cashew milk in the tea.
Nice and sweet.
Nice and sweet, yes. Just because I thought, well, I'll try different alternatives to having milk.
Before you go past that point, I think the reason why stuff like that's not so popular and cow's milk ales is cost. And the reason I think we used it, primarily the poorer person, in the Victorian times would have had milk because it's much more cheaper than other things like ale or something else. At one point, ale and milk was cheaper than water. So that's why they consumed them more.
Is that right?
They were actually cleaner than the water.
That I can believe. Okay. So obviously, black tea is also an option. You don't have to have milk in your tea, or you don't have to have cereal at all if you don't want to. But anyway, so if you do manage to find an alternative to cow's milk, then the hopeful plus side of that is that if there's surplus milk that people don't want, maybe they'll feed it to the baby cows, which was originally for in the first place. So I don't think they get much. I think we have it all. Anyway, that's a...
I mean, they probably do, but I think that's, the problem of actual cow's milk too is the growth hormone that's in the cow's milk, which is meant for baby cows, we're also consuming.
Yes.
We don't really know what that does. So, that might be causing issues. Might not. Apparently pasteurized milk, so green tops and red tops, are bad for you versus the blue tops because they're more full. They are less processed, so they have less crap in them. But probably more growth hormone. So pros and cons.
Great. So as I mentioned earlier, that's as a baseline. That's where I'm at. So that's why I'm thinking dairy doesn't make an awful lot of sense. But what I haven't added yet still is I haven't added meat to my diet. So am I saying that we shouldn't eat meat? So firstly, that's a hotly debated topic. And whilst I've done my research, I'm making a fixed conclusion on that is difficult. I'm prone to hate mail. So I'm going to start with, I don't know, but here's what I think. I think that's fair. I should get away with some stuff with that, right? So meat doesn't seem to feature much in our physiology. We don't have the natural tools to hunt. We don't have sharp teeth, sharp claws. I don't know about you, but I can't even eat a blue steak without a lot of effort. But just the same as Europeans have evolved to tolerate milk, presumably for the benefit as a source of calcium, it seems reasonable to me that we may have also evolved to tolerate eating meat or even cooked meat for its source of calories, protein, and various vitamins. The extra calories and protein, particularly, are claimed to have had some significant implications to our evolution, things like bigger brains and stronger muscular bodies. So does that mean meat is necessary? I don't know. I still don't know. But I respect anyone, obviously, that chooses to remove meat completely from their diet for whatever reason, especially if it's to do with, say, sustainability. And I wouldn't discourage them from their path, as I think they are more right than those that eat meat with every single meal. I think if you decided to keep one meat in your diet, I would definitely choose fish. I actually believe fish is a bit of a magical food source, and that the pescatarians are on something. But red meats have a benefit too. That's also been studied, and I would suggest that you make meat more like 5 to 10% of your diet if it's currently higher. So, area I haven't yet covered is food like bread and pasta and rice. So,
before you jump into those, though, can I respond as a meat eater?
Go for it. I mean, I'm a meat eater too. I'm not saying that I'm not.
No, as you're saying plant first, which you should think of the plant first. Completely agree. We should think about those things more. But at the same time, I would probably never go vegetarian or vegan. I do like meat, but I do agree that our preference is a leading cause of the carbonization of the world. And as we mentioned, cows take up a lot of space. Deforestation, to make room for cows, particularly beef. Apparently, beef gets the worst rap. Chicken, that's fine because they're smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah, beef gets a big rap. But for me, there's nothing better than a steak. I love a steak.
And there's some reason why your body loves a steak, right? It's got to be some.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have it every day, but I would happily have a steak once a week. And I'd probably have chicken once a week. And then I'd probably be quite happy if that was all. One chicken breast, one steak a week, and I'll probably be quite happy. And I think the way things are going, meat will always be on the menu, but it'll become more expensive as it becomes more organic, free range. So, for example, if you just allowed cows, don't level farmland and forestry, just let the cows go eat the grass in between the trees, and let them wander. Don't worry about their milk so much. You'll have different milk cows. And when they come back all nice and fat, okay, now they're perfect beef cows, and then you can do your thing. But hypothetically, you'll be doing less of that because it'll be more expensive. I have no idea how much a cow costs right now, but right now, say a steak is a $5.
Yeah,
I probably would be happy to spend maybe £10. 15 might be a push for the same amount of steak if it was a once a week and then maybe once a fortnight thing. But so I agree, but I could never fully go.
That's an interesting question. If it was if the steak cost 20 quid for one steak, how often would you eat it now?
It was 20 quid. And the way I'm thinking of it is an 8-ounce steak.
Yeah. So
8-ounce steak, probably about £5 now. That becomes 20 quid. And I'm a family of 4, so I probably want at least 2, maybe 3. That's now 60 quid. That's gonna be a once a quarter treat.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, personally, I wouldn't have a steak every week. Maybe once a month. I'd have other things like I would probably squeeze a burger in there somewhere or a sausage or something. I'm not saying I would eradicate completely, but a steak, I just generally don't eat I don't spend the money, even when it's only a fiver. I don't spend the money on having a full steak. If it cost 20 quid for one, I might have, I might have one a year or something. If it was because be like, right, it's a special day. It's my birthday. I'm having a steak.
Yeah.
But I think that feels like it should be more like that than, having some meat with your weekly roast or something that we talked about, like having a little bit of chicken on the side. That's great, but it just doesn't need to be like, whenever I've ever had roast in the past, it's always been like, essentially a whole chicken is carved up, and then we all have way more than we actually need. And because it's the meat and I'm a man and I need to eat the meat. When in fact, you could just give me a small portion on the side and I'd be quite happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't eat it so much these days, but I think evolutionary-wise, meat played a big part in who we are today.
And it might well done. I wasn't there. I can't say either way, but yeah, it makes sense that it does. It has lots of calories. It has lots of good stuff in it. So,
yeah. But I think that's kind of probably there's a general basis of where we are today in the world of, let's thank the past, thanks meat, thanks industrial revolution, but today there's this proof, and we need to maybe move forward.
Cool. So, yeah, the area I was about to go into then was bread, pasta, and rice. That sort of carb thing. So, just like the science from my childhood that said I should drink milk so that I have strong bones, I'm wired, I don't know about you, but I'm wired to think that I need to have a large amount of bread and pasta to fill me up. Does that compete with you or not?
It does, but I know where that came from, so I distrust it. I'm not really a carby person, so I can take or leave it. It typically comes from if you live in a poor area. Carbs were always cheap. Meat was expensive. That's why the Yorkshire pudding was invented. The Yorkshire pudding was invented in poor Yorkshire in the sense of it was meant to be a starter filled with meat gravy to fill you up so you'd eat less meat, which was more expensive.
Right.
So, yeah.
You've actually done the research and you know where that came from. In my case, I'm just talking about it just in that pre-wiring of when you're a kid. Your mum saying you need to eat your potatoes because to fill you up. That's why you eat potatoes, because you need to fill up. And so that's where my brain sort of starts before I start asking questions, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
Like take lunch, for example. Lunch is a sandwich. And if I want to be healthy, I have a brown bread sandwich. But either way, it's a sandwich. That is the traditional lunch. That is what I'm supposed to have. So if there's not bread in my midday meal, there's something going wrong. And it's like that sort of pre-wiring that I think needs to be sort of challenged. So bread, and actually just about everything else, contains wheat, and wheat contains gluten, and we seem to have a bit of a mixed relationship with that particular protein. So some of us can't process it very well, and they are gluten intolerant, and you'll find them in the free from aisle in Tesco's. Although apparently now you also find misguided weight loss people down there too, but that's a side note. So you used to hear that your diet should consist of 60% carbohydrates. But for most people, carbs just literally translate directly to bread. So we just upgrade to a baguette and then we think we've had enough. But actually fruits, vegetables and all that good stuff also contains carbs, good carbs. White bread is the sort of the bad carbs because it particularly unleashes like a flood of glucose into the body, which spikes our sugar levels and then can generally play havoc with our energy levels throughout the day, amongst other things. So to recap, we've got in my plant first diet, I've suggested a 80% gatherer style diet of nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, and the 10% hunter diet of what I would predominantly put as fish, but other meats are okay too. And then the remaining 10% for the other carbohydrates such as bread, rice, and pasta.
You would keep carbs. You wouldn't cut them out.
I wouldn't cut them out. No, I don't think so. I haven't found a compelling enough reason to do so.
Nutritionally, they're very poor. I'm coming from a different diet, the keto diet,
Yes.
which is zero carbs whatsoever. Primarily anything with sugar-based, and white bread, sugar-based. Simple carb. More complex carb like fruits is also banned on the keto diet.
See, that doesn't make. I don't feel like that's. The belief that we need to have glucose in our diet comes from the fact that the brain uses glucose. But we also now know that is it ketos? Is that
ketogens? Yeah.
It can also work perfectly fine on that. So it's basically the brain's just gone, right, well, I'll use whatever fuel's available. I can either use this or I can use this. It doesn't really matter which one. But the glucose has got other negative effects. I can't see a world where removing fruits is a good idea. I feel like that should be the case. So I wouldn't go with a non-carb diet entirely. I think there's
I think the basis of keto is to remove processed carbs. The keto diet isn't a lifelong thing. So it's not like where you're talking about plant first. This isn't a lifelong thing. This is primarily a weight loss and health sort of rejuvenation thing. Get rid of all the processed crap, which is typically anything that's white, and just getting rid of it out your diet. I mean, and then go back to apples when you feel a bit healthier. So I'm introducing stuff like apples, bananas, berries, which are all carbs and all have sugar, but a bit more of a healthy version.
Yes. I think they're more complex, so they're not broken down as quickly or something like that.
Whereas, fruit is broken very easy because it's fructose, but complex carbs, which is whole meat stuff. A lot of that's fiber, so just kind of passes straight through you.
Gotcha. I mean, nutrition is a major minefield. I don't know all, obviously. The science is changing all the time. So just to reiterate, I don't know the correct answer, but I feel like I do know that it's that what you eat is hugely important, and it can affect your life in many ways, and it can cause all sorts of trouble if you've got it wrong. And if you've been eating the same way that your parents have taught you, or that the science was back in those days when you were little, it's definitely time to challenge those beliefs. I think it is sustainable to have a proportion of our diet including meat, but it's not at the current average levels. So as a population, I think we do need to take into account too. That's our responsibility as a society. So fundamentally, I think meat and 2 veg has to go. At the very least, it should be 2 veg and meat, because that's plant first.
I see what you did there.
And that's my little speech, mate. That's my little speech.
Nice. So I'm going to give you a proper naive thing that you'll probably hear if you hear about this stuff. Okay, so people say you are what you eat. I'm made of meat, therefore I eat meat. What's your problem?
I mean, that argument seems so dumb I don't even know how to come up with a response. But what? On that basis, every single herbivore is going to starve to death because it itself is meat, and therefore it will die if it doesn't eat meat. That's a dumb argument. Next. You can do better than that. I'm sure you can.
I started off by saying I'm going to give you a naive perspective.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I never said this is what I believe.
I wouldn't be so harsh. All right, but actually, it's not even your perspective. That was dumb. It was super dumb.
I've already said I primarily agree with you, but I'm still not getting rid of meat. I'm just keeping it there. That's a nice thing. Like I said, I mean, like the biggest dinosaurs were herbivores, as we've seen. Like, as far as we know, like T-Rex was a herbivore with wings, with little wings. So, like, all these like nasty things, typically not there. What's the biggest dinosaurs in Jurassic Park? The Diplodocus. Those guys were eating bloody trees. I mean, they are tons of meat. So yeah. It's a shit argument, but it is an argument that you will hear, and
Can
I
you use that
think
word? Do I have to bleep that out now?
I don't know. Do we have to? I don't know. Are we marking things as explicit?
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, go on.
All I was going to say is I think a lot of these arguments have come from general naivety of the word vegan and vegetarian. So I think if you rebrand it to plant first, I think you have a shot.
Well, I mean, I wasn't trying to rebrand the whole thing, but yeah, I mean, if I'm happy to offer my plant first name for free for anyone that wants to use it. I won't insist on any royalties. Yeah, it's just for me. It's just spinning it around, trying to think of it as like, even if you just took exactly the same meals that you already have, like every time we make a spaghetti bolognese or something like that, where you could just put in like 2 lots of meat and then I don't know, a little bit of onion or something, or you could put in half the amount of meat and then you could just add loads and loads of veg on top. So that's just even that sort of helps, because then you're if you've got leftovers or whatever, then that's just another meal where you've not eaten.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, meat
sorry.
dishes are very easy, very popular, and unfortunately the alternatives like corn mince never quite works out quite well.
No, I think meat substitutes is a different story entirely. But just going back to our episode we did last time on fire, substituting meat with vegetables. For example, if you are making a bolognese, use half the mince, chuck in some red peppers, yellow peppers, green peppers, onion, bulk it up. And you've now spent half the money on mince. That's a good money-saving idea for family meals in order to get to your fire target.
Oh, and if you like mushroom, which I don't think I did initially, but I've actually sort of developed a taste for it, which is, I'll come back to that in a second. But mushroom is a really good one because it's kind of like, it's a bit like meat in the sense it's quite chewy, quite meaty in that sense, and it adds bulk too. So mushrooms is a really good one. But that's an interesting point. I was a very fussy eater as a child. I was the kid that had to sit at the table at the end of the meal, having refused to eat my Brussels sprouts because I hated them. They would literally make me gag at the table, where I said I would rather eat the damn things raw than eat them like that because they're disgusting, right? So I remember one particular meal where I had to sit at the table with a raw Brussels sprout and I had to eat the whole thing. Otherwise I wasn't allowed to leave the table.
Serves you right.
Yeah. Although I stand by my word, I think I still preferred it. It was harder to eat though. That was the only problem. Anyway, the point being that I read once that the way that your body takes on food, if you like, is that the first time it has it, it almost automatically doesn't like it, because it just doesn't recognize the taste. So it automatically goes, I don't think I like that. And if you keep forcing it to eat it, your body will eventually go, oh, wait a second, it's that food, it's okay. It's almost not about the taste, it's just about whether your body has adjusted to the taste. So any food that you think you don't like, theory goes, if you keep eating it, you will eventually learn to love it. And I have come from being a very, very, very fussy eater to, generally speaking, I will now eat most things and I don't complain too much. I can't say I've ever got to the point where I go, Brussels sprouts, love it. So that theory hasn't quite worked out. But in other things, mushrooms being one of them, I never used to like them, and now I do. So if you're feeling like you can do it, you probably can, is what I'm trying to say.
Good point. Yeah, I'm also not a fan of sprouts. But mushrooms too. I think it depends how they're cooked. I like mushrooms. My wife hates them. However, I do put them in like bolognese and stuff, and she just doesn't know, and she'll eat them. Yeah, I think oftentimes it's a psychological thing.
Well, it certainly is with children, isn't it? I mean, like I've got my nephew won't even eat most foods because he's already decided he doesn't like them before he's even put them in his mouth. I think it's that sort of if you believe you're not going to like it before you put it in your mouth, there's a very, very good chance you won't, because your brain controls most things.
You just reminded me of something from the 90s. I'm sure there was at one point someone invented a chocolate flavored carrot, and that was all the rage. I don't know where that's come from.
No way.
But
That's a dream you had, surely.
I don't know. I mean, that kind of feels like we can do that now. We could probably do that.
I'm not sure we should.
That's not saying we should. I mean, it tastes like chocolate, like flavorings of some sort. But I mean, people probably enjoy carrot then. It's like psychological. Change the psychological thing.
I just whack them over the head, isn't it?
But it's force feed it like.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to this. Right, I find the best way to do it with food, generally speaking, with children, is to not make a fuss of it in the first place. Put it in front of them.
Yeah.
I always do this. If you want pudding, eat your food. If you don't want pudding, don't eat it. Right. So that was the topic really. I haven't got anything else to say unless you want to challenge me any further. Any more arguments?
I'll probably Google some, because I'm not in this area, but you must have heard some stuff. Yeah, V, whichever V you want to go with. Somebody must have challenged you.
I think, well, not really, because I'm not actually saying, don't eat. I'm not saying,
because you're not an angry vegan.
No, yeah, I'm not. Well, I'm not saying don't eat anything really. I mean, I think the fact that we are capable of eating such a broad range of things is in itself a positive thing. So I don't think I would ever say to not eat for any particular item of food, to not eat it, except the high sugar processed stuff. That's the only thing I would say. Avoid it. Don't eat it at all, because there's no benefits from it. But everything else, if your body can take it, then it's probably going to find some benefit in it. So eat it, including. I just wouldn't eat from a society perspective. I wouldn't eat very much of it. That would be my reason to knock it down. Even if meat was really, really good for us, I'd still say as a society we are messing things up by eating that much. So I would say let's reduce that down a little bit to whatever the minimum we can have. But I also think that we were already overinflated anyway, and actually 10% is probably about right for what we should be doing.
Yeah.
If you think about that in terms of you've got 5 meals in a week, then instead of having meat every single day, then if you had it once or twice a week, that would already be a vast improvement.
Yeah. And how would you factor in dairy? Because you're saying to stop dairy entirely, or
again,
I really like cheese. I love cheese.
Yeah, so I really like cheese. I think I wouldn't say don't eat it. I would simply say just remember the fact that we don't need it. It's not really part of something that we're supposed to eat. Therefore, treat it as a luxury that you have, which you keep as a minimum. It's the same as the steak. You can grate some on your thing. Every now and again, you can have some cheese and crackers. Don't not eat it, because you can eat it. It's going to get you some benefit, but it's not supposed to be in your bulk part of your meal. If your bulk part should be your vegetables and your seeds and your nuts and your fruits, veg, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, variety.
Yeah.
Balance out, have a nice variety. Cool. Okay.
Make yourself a mac and salad. Grate some cheese on top. Fine. No worries about it. Sprinkle some bacon. I don't care.
I mean, the cheese is required there. I mean, nice bit of like Parmesan or something.
I mean,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not very good at rabbit food either. I like a bit of sprinkling. There's a bit of sauce or something on it to make it taste a bit better. But...
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's good. I mean, only thing I want to end with is next time I'm going to chat something to do a bit more with the climate. So I think this is a good topic to discuss. We've done today. The top 3 climate issues. Number 1, obviously fossil fuels. Number 2 is a surprise, which I'll keep to next week. And number 3 is the meat industry. So I think how number 3 plays out over the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to be crucial. So yeah, meat will increase in price, and I think naturally we'll all stop consuming as much.
Well, I'm happy with that. I hope you are too. And
I'll pay 20 quid for a steak once every 3 months.
And I will wait until there's a deal where it's like a help out to eat out thing, and then I get it for £10, and then it's all good, and then I'm happy.
Yeah, I'll just buy loads now, just freeze it and just flog it when the time's right.
How long can I keep it in my freezer for? 7 years too much? I don't know. Right. So, should we end it on that note? Are we done?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, then I guess we thank everyone for watching. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Oh, I must think, educate, act. That too.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.